All right, I'll keep letting folks in as they go, but I do want to go and get this thing started. Just a reminder to folks, we are recording this as well, so we'll push this out there. You can revisit it, take some notes if you'd like, but you'd also be able to come back and review that. I'm Aaron Stecker. I am one of the Bound directors serving Bound, and we're excited to have you join us for our first online seminar called Welcome to Athletics. Just a little note about what this is about. Our goal here is to have ADs who have great experiences or a lot of experience. Some have not a whole lot of experience, but have experienced success or found success in different niches. We're trying to bring those folks on, those ADs on from time to time and do panel discussions like this, share their strategies, their processes, their techniques, in some cases their failures and how they turn those into wins, what they've learned from it. Share those with us as ADs. We were actually talking ahead of time before we got started, even that this really is a profession of begging, borrowing, and stealing from others who have tried it and learned from it and perfected it, and now we steal from them and make it look like ours. And that's what we're about, is sharing ideas. So the goal of the next half hour is that you sit back and listen to 4 great ADs talk about their experiences in a couple of different areas. And the goal is to be this half an hour. Take something away from this that you can put some thought into and use to make your experience for your students, your athletes, your coaches, your community better where you're at, learning from what you guys have done. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our panel today, and then we'll jump right into our content. Again, we'll work hard to keep this at a half an hour. So we'll try to get a lot of things in a short amount of time. So thank you to our first, our premiere episode of Welcome to Athletics and Excellence Athletics, our panel, Tanya Moe, who is the AD at Linn-Mar High School, Dustin Smith, who's the AD at Nevada High School, Tyler, the AD at Underwood High School, and Jeff Beeson, who is the AD at Glenwood High School. Great ADs, great educational athletics leaders, fierce advocates for student athletes, and providing great experiences for them. So we appreciate you guys being on. I'd love to have you take time to introduce yourselves, but again, in the interest of time, we're just going to jump right into it. Trust me, their resumes are fantastic. I've learned something from all these folks anytime I'm with them, around them, talking with them. So excited to have you guys on board. Thanks for joining us today. All right. We're going to get into this thing here today. We're going to talk about 2 topics here. 2 different topics. We'll probably spend about 10 minutes on each topic. Topic number 1 is going to be on event management. We'll talk about like pre-event management strategies and techniques they've used, and strategies and techniques they've used. And then we will jump to topic number 2 for the day, which is going to be generating revenue, outside revenue sources, which these guys have been great at as well. So we'll start on event management here today. And we'll have Dustin and Tanya kind of be our lead ADs on this, but we'll give Jeff and Tyler a chance to jump in at the end of this discussion and share a thought or 2 that they've got as well. So starting on event management, again, we're looking at 2 sides of this. We're going to look at kind of that the pre-event management. That might be things from scheduling to promotion to getting all of your officials and workers lined up to communicating about the event and things like that. So we'll start with the pre-event management, and then we'll also then talk about game night. When the stuff hits the fan and it's time to make sure that event goes off without a hitch as best as you can. So let's jump into the pre-event management part of this is first. Tanya, we're going to let you go for, well, actually, this will be for both of you to start with. Just a warm-up general question. I wanted you guys to talk about your experiences in AD. Why is it important to you as an athletic administrator to do this well, to make sure events go off without a hitch? Why is event management, the planning, the preparation, the energy, the effort important to you as an AD? Tanya, I'll let you go first, and then Dustin, I'll let you jump in after.
Yeah, my philosophy has always been I don't want my coaches to worry about anything on the night of an event except for coaching. And I think it's really important that I have all the pieces in place so they can just show up, they can coach. They don't have to worry about if the workers are going to be there, if the refs are going to be there, if the ticket takers are going to be there, all of those things. And sometimes that puts a lot of work on myself, but having all those pieces in place, being organized, and having your event go smoothly the whole night just alleviates so much stress and so much problem. Now, it's not always like that. You have to be prepared for things that show up or that happen. I've been as prepared as I can for an event, but then electricity goes out, you have a water leak on your floor, you have, a fan that or spectator that you have to deal with. You have to be prepared for all those things. I think the best thing for me is I communicate and make sure everybody's on the same page. And you always, just like our job is, we live in the present, but we're always in the future, right? Like we're always thinking about the future. So even though we're starting the winter sports right now, I'm already thinking about my spring events and getting my workers for those. So I'm always thinking ahead and trying to be organized. So when that season comes, everything is set in place. So those are just, I have a lot of checklists. I'm kind of old school that way. I have a lot of checklists, things that my secretary and my assistant and I take care of before an event happens, during an event, and then what happens if we have an event cancellation or postponement. And we each have responsibilities on what we're going to take care of. So we know that everything, we're checking off all the boxes. We're not missing anything. And those are things that we sit down weekly as a staff in my office and say, okay, if this happens, who's going to cover this? Who's calling the officials? Who's calling the opponent? Who's, making sure bound, if you still use our school, your booster club, your ticket takers, your score table workers, custodians, your admin team, any media that's coming. We just have a checklist of all those things that we need to make sure that we contact. And I'm just a firm believer that you need to take care of the people that are working your events. And if you take care of them, they're going to continue to come back and work. I've been very fortunate for the 18 years that I've been here to have about 5 to 7 ticket takers that just love to do what they do. And so I don't have to retrain people every single year. I have a group of people that love to run our score tables for volleyball and basketball. And when I say I take care of them, I'll give them passes at the end of the season. I may give them just some, small gift cards or take them out for, a celebratory drink and say thank you. Just appreciation and letting those people know that they're just as important as anybody else goes a long way. So those are just some of the tips that I do. But it's just really important to make sure that the event, you have it planned out, you're ready for anything that can come your way. And you just have a strong team that you work with and you trust.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of what Tanya said, a lot of things that we practice at Nevada. Some things that I would add with taking care of your folks for at events. We've even went as far to I've made a coach's lounge where we keep it stocked with water all the time, but each month there's a coach of the month and they get to pick one school appropriate drink to go into that cooler too. And that's open to coaches, coaches' kids, coaches' wives. I throw a couple $100 at it a month and it keeps people happy. You got to have a little money to throw there. Your booster club's probably willing to help you a little bit, but those extra things you can do that aren't really a lot of money that go a long ways. I'd even say that during basketball games or volleyball games, I take a handful of 10 waters out and offer it to every coach that comes in. And it cost us $1.40 at Fairway for the coaches from PCM to say, wow, we're really taken care of here. Just the little things you can do to help your people. I will, off of what Tanya said, and most of the people sitting around here listening are ADs, and you've sent an email before. I like to get my communications out fairly early. And when I say fairly early, I say 14 to 10 days ahead. Because there's always someone who forgot they had a ticket taking shift that needs to get that switched. There's someone who found out they've got something coming up. And if I find that out 10 days ahead, I'm way more likely to get it filled with a qualified person than I am if I send it out 2 days before the event. And the practice that I like to use, Tanya has her checklist. I put everyone on that email. Like if you're even going to look at this game, I'm going to put you on that email. And then when I get that winter storm brewing, I click reply all, and I have everyone notified within minutes. There's some officials and different people I want to make sure that I'm calling that might not be as responsive. But I think it's really important to get that communication out early. Not necessarily for them to read early, but then they have it. It's already in their inbox and they can go with it from there.
Excellent. So again, the focus there was on the what you can do ahead of time, and it's not. I'm hearing things, guys, on this. Be organized. Have a system of organizing all your information. Who's involved? What resources do you need? And the other thing I heard is planning on taking care of folks, so if they want to come back and do this again. Let's shift gears to game night, because now you're there, and Timo, you alluded to this. You can have all the planning and checklists and try to take care of everything, 10 days ahead of time as much as you can, but game night's going to happen. And things are going to start moving quickly. So what's advice you have, whether it be processes or management tools and things like that for ADs that are listening for game night management, dealing with what comes at you in a hurry?
Well, I know depending on the size of school that you have, our situations are a little bit different. Being at a 5A school where I'm at, we have a strong admin personnel it's all hands on deck at our events. So my principal, my 2 associate principals, our 2 dean of students, everyone is on board. So what's nice in my situation, and again, I know it's different at a 1A or 2A or even 3A or 4A school, but my job at an event is to make sure all the athletic side of thing are going smoothly. My admin team will manage my student section, will kind of keep those things in line. It's not to say that I'm not involved in those, but it's nice to have a little bit more eyes and ears on those things. So I'm not running and dealing with that and then not addressing another spectator, not addressing an issue with our card reader, with our ticket taker or something like that. So it's nice to have our admin all on board and on the same page. We will meet as an admin team, either in person or we'll share an email out ahead of time, okay, this is who's going to be at the event. This is who's covering what, those types of things. And so we all just kind of communicate with each other on that. And how we would handle if a spectator needs to be ejected or addressed. If we have an athletic trainer too is a huge piece to our puzzle as well at events. And so if there's an injury, if we need to call an ambulance, those types of things, who's going to handle those types of things. So all those things are kind of, again, that's pre-management, but at the same time, some of those things are done at the spot of the incident that happens so we try to communicate all of that ahead of time, but a lot of times there might be something that, happens and we just get together and okay, you handle this, I'll handle this. This is how we're going to address it. There are some things that I have pre-written that I can have my announcer read in case some situations happen that can alleviate some chaos sometimes when that happens. But again, a lot of times it's just, you need to just make sure you communicate with all of your parties that are involved.
I think, Tanya, some things that you learn early is on some of those big game nights, especially football games. You can't do it all. I can't set up the tickets while I'm putting an official in the room while the team's getting off the bus. So what I've found that's helped quite a bit on a game night management situation, and listen, I'm in a smaller school, a 3A school, so we've got some 5A-ish resources, but I'm in the middle. But I've also seen this play out at a Janesville size school, a 1A school. You need to get more people involved. So what I've done to help with that is my administrative assistant likes to go to Denver on Sundays for football games. So I ask her to stay late on Fridays when we have home football games, and tickets are hers. She takes care of the tickets. And something that doesn't have a cost, there's some work that goes into it. I've created some student internship opportunities. I have an intern that oversees the live feed. She schedules the workers for the live feed. I meet with her once every couple of weeks. She gets a t-shirt and a free meal that night. Not a lot of cost goes into it, but she makes sure my live feeds kick in. I've got a social media manager, a student who gets an internship hour through the school, and then he gets a t-shirt and a pass for the year. You can't do it on your own on a game night. But there are some students who want to be part of that. There's some students that you have that want to get into the world that we're in, whether it's athletic administration or even if it's athletic training. They want to see what's going on. if I had guidance for you, I'd empower you and to think about how you can get people to help you. And it doesn't have to come at a large cost. There's students that are willing to do it and they're able, even at a Janesville size school. I just told one of the students they were the assistant AD and she'd do anything I asked, right? And then you've got an extra hand to help out with those things. I think that's the biggest part of like those really big game nights.
I think that's great stuff. And I hear you guys talk about that. And of course, I think about probably one of my biggest weaknesses as an AD over 16 years was being willing to or comfortable or taking the time to delegate and find those folks. But it's so important. Does two things. One, it takes things off your plate, as you were alluding to there, Dustin. And two, it empowers other people to get outside their comfort zone and try new stuff and grow themselves. So great stuff.
I think one other thing I want to add, Aaron, is I try to meet with my student section leaders. They're a big piece to home events, and I want that awesome environment with our students. But I try to meet with them, and I try to just let them know what's acceptable, what's not. I don't want to micromanage them, but I also want them to have some freedom. But they also got to know what's appropriate and what's not, and how to cheer for our team and not jeer against the other team. But I want them to know that I respect that they're there and that they're leaders. And I want them to create a healthy environment. So we try to meet with them. We all have our big rival games, and sometimes I meet with them a little bit more before those versus other events. But I want them to feel important. I want them to feel like they're wanted there, and they have a little bit of ownership to that environment. So I think that's an important piece too.
Aaron at Glenwood, we have office runners who help run passes and do some different things. So I work hand in hand with our counselor for our 7th hour office runners, and those two people usually a little bit sports minded, but we'll set up a lot of our facilities for games later on that night. Our custodians are turning over way too fast, so it takes me more time to show them how to do things, and then they disappear on me. So we've tried to utilize our kids more in regards to setting up gyms for volleyball and basketball and putting out pylons and stuff at football games. So those two office runners for us are a big piece of what we do on a game day management at Glenwood too.
That's fantastic. How about you, Tyler? One last word on any game management, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think one thing that I always try to do in June, kind of when the dust settles and you're reflecting back on the year, is just kind of look at your practices and like what can be improved. Like I see one of the things last year was like game letters that you get or stuff that I get from other ADs. So if I see something that comes across that I think is really good, I kind of file that away into my email into a folder, and then I know like, okay, I want to go revisit this and then find something that I can improve on. Just finding ways to to be more efficient and kind of do a better job of those kind of day-to-day things.
Aaron, my goal is to not be present at any varsity game, right? So you can have all your systems in place, everything's right, and then you can not be there and be somewhere else and know that everything's going to happen right. I haven't quite got there in cross country and track yet, but some of those other sports, if you can get those things in place, you'll feel better about empowering your people, I think. So you don't always have to be the person that's there.
All right. That's a great discussion on event management. Again, there's a lot there to unpack. Hopefully you've got a few things written down. And again, I'll say this again at the end, but I know these 4, if you want to look them up and reach out to them, they'd love to go more in depth with you on any ideas if something struck a chord with you there. All right. I'm going to shift gears to topic number 2 of the day, and that is generating revenue. Looking at things like sponsorships, advertising, and Tyler and Jeff are going to kind of take the lead on this end of the discussion with this. I know it's something they've been very successful with. So just a general question to the two of you to start with, what motivated you to excel in this area, to make sure you're generating revenue beyond tickets and passes and things like that? Why is that important to you? And then we'll get into kind of the nitty gritty of some of your processes that you've gone with. Jeff, we'll start with you, and then Tyler, let you jump in.
Yeah, well, we live in a small town of 5,100 people, and we have a newspaper that goes out once a week. So I found out early on, if I wasn't telling people what was happening within our activities, they weren't finding out until they read the newspaper or found out about it somewhere else. So I really felt it was up to me to try and bring our community together to let them know what was happening within our activities, recognize our kids, promote everything that was going on, and really try to tell our story and narrate the way that I wanted it to be told. So through that, with our presence on social media, I've since then tried to add a sponsor to every possible thing that goes out there. So if we're posting a live game score or final game score or recognizes someone where it's appropriate to put a business sponsor on that graphic, we went ahead and done that. So our Score Vision video board inside our gym has been a big piece of what we've been able to do. We're trying to advertise as much as we can in game, during quarters, at halftime, all that stuff. When we go outside, we try to promote all of our sponsors on our boards as well. And the Bound platform has been big for us. We've gone to online ticketing within our conference. So we sell ticket sponsors. We also sell splash ad advertisers, title sponsors, and all the things that happen within Bound with either live game scoring or final game scoring that's required. With our associations, we've added a sponsor to all that stuff. So that's been a big piece of how we've been able to raise some money and give back to our kids and our programs and not have our coaches have to go out and fundraise to make some money.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off that, being a kind of a 1A, 2A school, when I came on board a few years ago, just kind of looking at our stuff and seeing what we had in place for a sponsorship platform, but then knowing that there was room for growth essentially with it, but also knowing that kind of in our community, it's a very supportive community, and trying to involve those businesses and involve those groups. I apologize. To give them a piece and get them in our activities program for something to rally around. But ultimately we do a big kind of booster night out for fundraising in the fall, but then trying to find another way to generate revenue too. That way, when coaches come to you with these really good ideas, you're not kind of scratching your head trying to figure out how you're going to pay for it, but you kind of have a plan in place to know and support them a little bit deeper. So I mean, Jeff alluded to it. I think the social media piece is such a powerful piece nowadays to not only tell your story, but to promote your kids and the good things that are happening within your community. So I think that's been something that we've kind of latched onto and just really kind of getting it going.
So you talked a bit some of the processes and things like that. Let me ask you to reflect on this, if you don't mind, because fundraising, it's almost a 4-letter word in the AD world. It's just not our favorite thing to do. We didn't become athletic administrators, to fundraise and things like that. But it's something you have to do. So do me a favor, reflect a bit on. No, it's not something that you want to do. It's not the most fun part of our job, and sometimes can be uncomfortable. But talk to me about maybe one thing that has happened at your schools that there's no way you provide that for your school, either your coaches, your kids, or your community, if you didn't make the efforts you made with sponsorship and advertising.
Yeah, for us, we put in a $200,000 weight room renovation project last year. And without the sponsorships and the stuff we had made through our booster club, really having that money available to do that and not going outside to fundraise any of that, we were able to do that. So just being able to reach out to those businesses on a yearly basis and having a connection with them. Yeah, it stinks to ask for money, but at the same time, we're trying to provide a product back that benefits them, right? So they're getting advertising out of it, and also trying to build that Ram pride or bring all that connectedness back to our community, to our high school with all that we're doing. So that process has been big for us to, we're raising anywhere from $100,000 to $125,000 a year on advertising. And that's a huge amount of money that goes back to our booster club that allows us to pay for a lot of different things that benefits kids.
Yeah, I think a lot of ours, like one of the things that Jeff mentioned, those Score Vision scoreboards, that was kind of the thing that got me really wanting to get one of those. I mean, being a smaller school, we don't have that yet, but making it a goal of trying to get those things to just increase the atmosphere for our kids at games and trying to get kids excited to come not only play for Underwood, but play at Underwood because of the game day setup that we have here and stuff with that. And I think one of the things that we did this past year, and it works for a small school, wouldn't work for a big school, but we were able to find a student pass sponsor. So basically a group in town that paid for all of our students' 6 through 12 to get admission to every game. It's great PR for them. I mean, I know that was probably our most shared social media post that we had and commented and interactions wise, just because of all the positive that came for them. And I had multiple people come running to me after that, wanting to get on board with it. And I said, oh, well, sorry, we only have one. But again, that was just a really, really positive thing. It helps kind of create more atmosphere, but also kind of generating some money too as well. So
Tyler, has your student crowd increased significantly because of that?
big time. Yeah. No, with that, it comes with a little more supervision and things too. But it's been really good. I think it was one of those things last year. It was just like we're scratching our heads, like, what do we have to do to get these kids to games? And now you're seeing kids that have never gone to games kind of show up to games and be a part of the experience, so to speak. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I hear you talk about that, and now you turn around and you talk. We do what we do in athletic administration to build community. And when you start talking about now kids coming to games who have never come to games, and now they're buying into the school, so now they're more excited to come to school the next day because they want to talk to their friends about the game and the experience they had last night. Well, now that I'm here, I might as well go to class. I don't usually go to my first hour of class, but I'm here. So, I mean, it just starts to domino effect. I would imagine you're seeing that in terms of, and Jeff, you talked about the game day experience that you try to provide. And these resources let you do that, increasing engagement with kids, getting them to want to be at school beyond the first bell and the last bell is so huge. And we play a big role in that in educational athletics. So I want to talk to you guys about, I think one of the biggest hurdles for us as athletic administrators is, we're not necessarily marketers and we didn't go to class and business classes a lot to learn how to go solicit money. So what was one of the biggest hurdles you had to overcome in terms of walking in the doors or pick up the phone and communicating with business leaders in your community? That's a big hurdle. I hear a lot of ADs talk about. How did you overcome that? What strategies or ideas could you share with folks to help them overcome that and have the courage to go do what you've done, which is involve your community in supporting your programs?
Yeah, if you can get over the fear factor of being told no and putting your head between your legs and walking out, if you're not going to get what you want, that's really where it's at. But I think before you get to that point, though, it's having a connection with that business owner or that business leader to where you're not just walking in the first day of summer in 2023 and never having a conversation with someone and asking for money. Like that just doesn't happen, at least where I'm at. So it's having conversations throughout the year and then going back to them and saying, hey, we have a product that we're selling. Here's what we offer for our kids. Here's what I can offer to you as a business leader and a business owner. Would you be willing to pay $2,000, $4,000, $10,000 for this? And in return, here's what you're going to get. So if you can get over the maybe the fear factor of being told no and someone saying I'm not interested, I think you're good, right? The worst thing they're going to tell you is no. And at the end of the day, we get told no a lot, right? So if you can get over that, I think you're good.
Yeah, and I think that was the getting started piece was hard. Obviously kind of dragging your feet, figuring out not only how to get started, but like where do you start with it? I think one of the things that I did was you kind of build that network of business owners that before I even rolled mine out this past summer. I had kind of been leaning on those guys, sending them the proposal. Hey, what do you think about this? Give me some feedback. Would this be something you'd be interested in or you find value in? And then as soon as I started to get more yeses than nos or feedback on that, then I knew, okay, I finally have something that I think I'm ready to take out to the public kind of with that. So then that was a big part of it, but also too, I know it took me 2 years. I know I reached out to Jeff a number of times. Travis up at Western Christian, he sent me their sponsorship package, like just looking at what everybody else is doing and then tailoring it to what you can offer at your school. I think that was a big piece. There's so much that we do that you can slap a sponsorship on as well, or find somebody to pay for. I know one thing I'm looking at already for next year is we do these senior banners. I'm not going to slap a Subway logo on the banner, but if I can promote on our social media that Subway is paying for all these senior banners to be printed, well, that's really good PR for Subway, and they benefit from that. So just finding ways to involve those people, but then again, kind of having the courage to make that cold call sometimes just to start that relationship. And you may get no the first time, but after that, hopefully it starts a conversation long beyond that. So
Dustin and Tanya, I want to give you guys a chance to weigh in on maybe one thing you'd like to share in this arena as well.
I think where I'm at, being in Cedar Rapids, Marion, we have 6 or 7 schools, in the same area. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult approaching businesses because, you know, they get approached by 5 or 6 other schools, and so they're being stretched pretty thin. So I have that extra hurdle kind of sometimes to overcome. You're not to plug in, you know, this isn't about Bound, but ever since we switched to Bound and I've built these fundraising accounts specifically for each one of my sports, it's been really nice to share that with parents, because then they can just know they can donate directly to their sports that their kids are in, and the money's going to go to that. But the biggest piece that I found is that people will donate as long as you communicate what the money is being used for and how it's being used. And then when you can show them afterwards what their money went toward, that's the big piece. And that's what makes a big difference. And that's how you get people to donate year in and year out. I probably get more money that way than I do always from the businesses, maybe like some of the smaller school districts get. We still get some of, you know, the larger businesses that want to support all the school, you know, districts in the area. But sometimes I battle with so many different school districts in the same area. Sometimes that can be a little bit more difficult.
And I kind of off of what Jeff was talking about, the fear factor of like the no, someone's going to be asking these businesses for money. It might as well be you. And it might as well go to your kids. And I can't think, well, obviously we're all a bit biased, but I can't think of a better place than it going to the school or activities or whichever activity it might be. So if part of your fear factor is getting that no, someone's going to ask them for that money and they're going to give it to someone. You might as well have your name be part of that conversation.
I think that's a great point, Dustin. You know, we really have something to market in educational athletics. We are trying to build young people out to be the future leaders of the community. Many of them will stick around in your community and reinvest back into that as well. And so I think it's something that you can certainly go out there. And I know you guys have talked about the Bound platform a bit. I'll throw this out there just to help folks think about it. When you think, well, what do I have to offer businesses? Man, go to your Bound platform for those that use it, and on your homepage and click on that traffic button and just take a look. And if it's not Bound, what other system are you using? And try to get that information out there in terms of how many people are clicking on our website, visiting our schedule sites and things like that online. Because when you can start to show them, look, you're going to get 35, 40,000 views a month, their ears will perk up, and all of a sudden they're way more interested in talking to you, because that's money well spent for them. They're investing in something they believe in, and they're going to get great exposure, and that's a win. So don't be afraid to get that data, however you need to get it, and use it. Guys, I tell you what, we're coming up on our half-hour time limit here. We can talk about these things for quite a while on that, but I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your thoughts and energy, both before this and during this. You're great leaders in educational athletics, so thank you for your time on that. I know the rest of the folks who are on here right now will thank you as well. Again, the goal of this is to have these quick half-hour segments. We'll do these every once in a while. We'll get ADs on and talk about, share their expertise, share their experiences. The goal is you picked up one thing today. What's one thing, and I encourage you to reflect on that right now before you move on to whatever's next on your schedule. What's one thing you heard that you're like, you know what, I want to learn more about that. I want to try to figure out how I can make that work at my community for my kids and my coaches and my school, and write down some notes right now and then put it someplace you're going to see it the next few days so that you'll put some more thought into it. I know I'm guilty of over the years. I hear something great, but I don't act on it within the first 24 hours of hearing it, and then it fizzles away into the background noise of the day-to-day. So if you found something you like today, write it down, make a note, start a little plan to put that in place. Any last thoughts from our panel? Otherwise, we'll sign off here in just a moment.
Thanks for hosting, Aaron.
Hey, you bet. Thanks for being on. Thanks for joining us, everybody out there. We know you're busy. We love and appreciate everything you do for your student athletes, for your coaches, for your communities. Keep doing what you do, because it makes a difference and it matters in the lives of people. You don't hear it enough, but you matter, and it's important what you do. So thanks. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of these panelists or any of us at Bound. We'd love to help you out and provide resources or provide experiences that can help you be better. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to having you join us on our next edition of Excellence in Athletics presented by Bound. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Wednesday.